Hello, everybody. I am Ifàwumi, Eegúngbami, Egbésola, Efunyemi. So you may notice a few changes with my channel. I originally was under the moniker of Efunyemi the Oracle, and there are some shifts that have to happen. Now, with those shifts come a lot more enlightenment about my life and my journey. So for those that don't know, I practice Isheshe Lagba, which is a practice out of Nigeria's traditional way of practice and honoring our Egungun, which are our ancestors. I am also initiated into Ifá, Abatala, Eparisho, that's my Baba, Egbe, and Egungun, which are ancestors. I started off doing this type of divination work in 2018 doing tarot. And it started to pick up a little bit, it was here and there. And then upon initiation last year, I changed my name to Efunyemi the Oracle. However, if I'm meant to be in alignment with the work I'm supposed to do, I cannot do tarot anymore. Ifá dubbed that for me. And it's okay. Like, my work is greater. There's plenty of tarot readers on here. There's plenty of wonderful tarot readers on here. And if you're here for the journey that I'm on, great. If you're not, it's cool. I feel like tarot is a wonderful system within itself, and oracle work is another system within itself, but also that's not my lane anymore. So my lane is going to be focusing more on the gifts that were given to me by my destiny. As an Egbe person, we see a lot of things. We feel a lot of things. All have intuitive based messages here and there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey into this practice and where I'm at with it now, and the importance of honoring Orisha, honoring your Ori, and honoring your Egungun, and honoring Ifá and Orunmila, and Olodumare, right? So we always say Iba Olodumare. We always give thanks to Olodumare. We give thanks to our Ori, which is our consciousness. Our Ori is the first line of defense. It is our Orisha. This is our Orisha. Nothing that you do in this world, especially if you are a practitioner of an African-based tradition, nothing gets through unless Ori. Like, Ori is the one that receives everything. If your Ori is not accepting, it doesn't matter how many ebos you're doing. It doesn't matter how many initiations you do. If your Ori is not accepting, wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thankful that my Ori receives the information that I am continually receiving as an initiate and learning as an Iyánífá and an Alorisha. Okay? As somebody whose lineages intersect with the South and also with the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, it is very important to honor those, and this is why Egungun is very important for me. Initiating to Egungun has been a learning process for me and a learning curve, because I'm learning things about my lineage. I'm learning things about myself and traveling to places that my Egungun have been, and I think it's also very important to understand that I've been learning on this journey because I started learning more about my ancestors. The gateway was my Ori receiving these messages years ago, right? I received a message years ago. This was like right before I moved to New York. I've been in New York for 12 years now. And I received this message right before I left where I'm originally from, Atlanta. And when you receive this message, you don't believe them, because the person was like, you'll be practicing Ifá and you'll be a powerful person. And I was just like, people just be saying shit just to say shit. You know what I mean? Now, fast forward, I'm practicing Ifá. They're like, you're supposed to be practicing Ifá because this is what's going to save your life. I came from a background, I'll talk a little bit about it later, that was very cult-like and essentially a cult. And the unwillingness of my Ori to accept it, it led to a lot of things in my life going haywire, like my relationships, my living situation, my mental health, my actual physical health, my financial health, like my spirit, like everything was getting attacked left and right. So I remember I did a reading when I came to New York, maybe like a few years later, like around 2018, like no, actually 2016, at Egbé, which are my comrades in heaven. And by the way, I am the leader of mine on Egbésola. That's my name. And Egbésola means Heavenly Pure Group is wealthy, therefore she is wealthy. So I give thanks to my Egbé every day. Musu musu. I love them. And Egungun came up strong. Now this is before I even knew who Abatala was. But I'll get to that in a minute. So I remember getting this reading. They're like, oh, you have to pay for the Ebo. I'm like, why I got to pay all this money? And they're like, you have to pay for Ebo. Now in our tradition, Ebo is something that you do. And I don't want to talk too much about it, you know, but it's something that is very particular in our tradition to ease a lot of things, appeasement, right? So I did Ebo, you know, and then all this stuff started coming. All this stuff started happening. Like, I had to move from where I was because it was wild shit happening. Like, when I mean wild shit happening, like, my friendship that I had with one particular person almost put my life in danger's way. Like, Egungun got me the fuck up out of there. Like, you need to leave. That was my Ori being loud. Like, you need to get the fuck out because shit's going to get real. And I would have visions. And I never understood why I was having visions. It was my Egbe. They were like, yo, you got to get out. You got to go. You have to leave. And I'm just like, no, you know, it's okay. It is what it is. Like, I'll be fine. And I'll get to that later. So thumbtack that. So, I remember just delving into my ancestral practices and, you know, not knowing that certain ancestral practices, like, you know, are taboo for me to like do, you know, like I come from a Southern background. Hoodoo is very strong in my lineage, you know, being in Spiritismo because my father's side, like the Puerto Rican side, but also learning that like Ifá is giving you the tools. So fast forward, moved to New York. Well, not moved to New York. I'm in New York at this moment. And I started having dreams. And the dreams were vivid. And I just remember everything being all white. And I'm lying in bed. And my family home has this big window. It's like a glass window, right? Now, mind you, this is the middle of winter. It's freezing outside. Snow is etched on everything except for the roads because they cleared the roads. And all of a sudden this TV pops out and there's an old man just staring at me, like blinking. No words, no nothing. And it wasn't menacing, it was just staring at me. Like, and I'm like frozen because I can't talk. But then there's also a figure with no head standing next to me touching my head. And I couldn't, for the light, it didn't even, everything was white. Everything was white in the house. And I was like, what is this? Like, and I was like, this is crazy. I was having that dream for a good 6 months, right? Fast forward, 2019, a good friend of mine was doing an art show, and I ran into my Iyánífá, my Ojibona at the time, who's now my Iyánífá. And I was like, yo, this is, like, the energy was just very, like, whew. And I got to meet other people who were now, I now realize are in my Ile. And the journey has just been a lot of ebbs, a lot of flows, a lot of learning, a lot of unlearning. And I'm really thankful that I have this opportunity to truly talk about my experience as somebody who is in an African-based tradition. I think the nuance, especially as a Black American person, coming back to their practices is not lost on me. I feel like a lot of our people, particularly in the Americas, were enslaved, right? And Christianity was the only stronghold we had. And we're seeing now in America where Christianity is I would say Judeo-Christian, if anything. Like, they're taking a stronghold on people's necks. And I feel reclamation of these practices that were passed down to us via our ancestors is going to be very important. So COVID hit, and with COVID, a lot of people did not make it. It was a very treacherous time. I feel as a Black person, but I also feel as somebody who is slowly learning about their practices. And I remember the first reading I got from my Iyánífá, because something was like, reach out to her. And I was like, why don't I reach out to her? Like, I don't know how like that, but something's like, reach out to her. So my Ori was like, reach out to her. Now I know it's my Ori that like, reach out to her. Like, this is who you need to go to. Because I told myself I wanted somebody who was either feminine or a female leading me in this practice, because I've seen and heard a lot of things about babalaos in this tradition who take advantage of women and femmes, and the damage that they have done has left people scarred and not wanting to practice and going back to the Christian aspect or any monotheistic religion that they originally were running from, because they were oppressed, and the power dynamic around that. But that's another conversation. So I was like, reach out to her. So I reached out to her. I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. We met a few months back. I really would love to get a reading. Got the reading. Abatala, Egbe, Eegúngbami. So the reading that I got a few years back, Eegúngbami and Egbe were there. But then I got the reading about everything. It was about Tala. And then it didn't click to me until literally years after I got that reading that Abatala was like, yo, I'm here. You're my child. I'm your father. I'm here to protect you and guide you. And I didn't know it, and I think people, and if you're an Abatala child or someone who is an Abatala person, some people can wear certain colors. I can't really wear a lot of colors. That was dubbed for me. Abatala said, you're wearing all white. Egbe said, you're wearing white. They're like, we know you. And my Gungun, you were like, we know you like other colors, but we prefer you in white. Ifá said the same thing. Egbe said the same thing. Egungun said the same thing. So essentially, me wearing white is where my blessings lie. So I remember I got that reading, I was gagging, because I thought for the longest, now I'm going to say this, okay? So at that time, let me rewind. At that time, I was learning more about the Lukumi Santeria side of it, because in Atlanta, I knew folks who were in those communities, and that was my foothold. But then I started meeting folks in Isheshe. And then that's when my Gungun were like, don't. You need to go the traditional way. And I didn't understand why, but now I understand why, because this is who they are. This is the tradition that they practice. So, did the reading, did the prescribed things that were needed, and I started to see my life flourish, and they were like, you need to do Itefa, which is Ifá initiation. Now, at the time, this is during the pandemic, you could not go anywhere. You couldn't go to Nigeria. So I did Isefa, which is like your hand of Ifá. Okay? This protects you from illness, sickness, death, lack of loss of any kind. And as somebody who's still learning, I experienced a lot of loss. I experienced a lot of sickness. I always had near-death experiences. All the things that I had with this experience before Isefa, it started to dissipate. It's still there. Like, death is always going to be there. Losses are going to be there. Trouble, all these things, but it's not as intense. So, did Isefa. My life was just like, life was wild, you know, because I did Abatala and Egbe and Ifá. I'll get to the Eegúngbami part in a minute. So I did Ifá, did my Sefa, and then Abatala, and then my Egbe. Received everything with that, because in the reading, those were the ones that would be received. I didn't do the full initiation for those yet. I just received, my Abatala, because that was in the reading very strong, and Egbe. So, when you're doing Sefa, right, your life starts to shift. And depending on what type of Odu it is, these are the things you expect. And I won't say too much, but it was a major Odu that came up for me. And I was like, all right, well, if this is what it's supposed to be, this is what it's supposed to be. So I started experiencing all these things. I started experiencing, all these wonderful blessings, but also a lot of things that needed to end in my life ended abruptly. It was just like done, right? And I think people don't understand, like, when you're learning to be in alignment, you're not going to always be on the right path. You got to have shit shake up in your life in order for it to get better. So, Didi Sefa, right? Every reading I got afterwards, Eegúngbami. They're like, you need to initiate to Eegúngbami. I'm like, I already gotta do these other ones, and then I gotta do Eegúngbami on top of that? Do some heavy hitters. So, for context, Abatala is the king of the white cloth. Okay? He is the molder of humanity. He is the one that teaches us about patience. And also, patience is the father of good character, right? So a lot of Batala children, we have character flaws. We're not perfect, right? We have to learn patience. And a lot of times we're trying to rush through things because, he's the oldest Orisha, right? So I was having this conversation with my chief the other day. Batala children, we are very stubborn. If we get our head knocked between the washer and dryer, we're like, it's okay. I got this. And your head's like, please stop. Please stop beating me up. Please stop butting me to the white meat. We love getting bust head to the white meat. Okay? So, that's about that. Okay? Egbe are your comrades in heaven. They bring you so many things. And there's different Egbe groups. Some Egbe groups are very chaotic. Other Egbe groups are very chill. There's ones for business. There's ones for victory. There's ones for leadership. There's all different types, right? And then you have Eegúngbami. And Eegúngbami are your ancestors. And with that, there's different masquerades, which I can't get too much into, but there's different ones for different things as well. And when somebody initiates to, especially if they're a woman, they'll be a Iyánífá. All right. There are some nuances depending on your lineage. Like some feel that, women should not initiate to Eegúngbami. That's a whole nother conversation. But some lineages, women do initiate to Eegúngbami. So we give thanks for that. But it's a very powerful thing to be initiated into Eegúngbami, because you see everything. You understand your ancestors. You know the work that needs to be done. And then having also to Ifá, which is once you initiate to Ifá, and I'll get into that in a minute, there's a whole system. It's 256 verses. There's 16 major Odu that come with it. And I'll go over a little bit as I go along on this journey, but there's 16 major Odu. And each Odu has what we call verses. And the verses are what you recite to evoke the Odu. And there's certain things you do with that and whatnot. But there's 16 Odus, 256 verses. They're are so many other things else, like 250. Yeah, it's like 256. Yeah, 256. But there's also others outside of that. That outside of like the 16 that you have to learn. So it's a lifelong process. I don't know them all. I'm still learning the first 16. Correct. I'm new to this. Okay. So I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up, but it's all about how your heart is in this space. So fast forward, 2024, get my last reading. They said, baby, you need to do it today. Like right now. You need to be in Nigeria this year. You need to initiate to all of them this year. Because next year is not promised to you. I was like, oh, copy. I said, Olodumare, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to get there. Olodumare made it happen. Next thing I know, I was like, oh, wow, we're in Nigeria. Wow. They don't understand Yoruba. But the experience has been so beautiful. And I'm so thankful that I trusted my Ori, because what if I would have listened to my Ori? I often think about my life, like, what if I wouldn't have listened? And I see myself, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to cry. I saw myself struggling. I saw myself homeless. I saw myself on drugs. I didn't see myself living long. But the fact that I have the opportunity to see another day, that's nothing no one can take from me. I chose myself. I've chosen everybody else. And I chose myself. And the fact that I chose myself is a blessing within itself. I gave my Ori the ability to guide me. And my Ori guided me. And listening. And I think the most important thing I'm learning to do is listen. But yeah. So 1 year later, they say first year is the hardest year. First year is the hardest year. First year is very hard. You go through a lot. I had some issues with friends. Job changes, housing changes. But these are all setting me up for something amazing, and I'm excited to see where that takes me. So I hope you join me on this journey. I hope you're able to receive from it. And yeah, so thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Take care. Adabo.